Hello everyone, this is going to be a video about a topic I have not covered and I've kind of avoided because it's a touchy subject and I don't like touchy subjects. Well, that's a lie, but this particular one, man is it a minefield. So I'm going in. First off, let me start by saying I think the United States is the country, which is the country I live in, is a good country. Do I think it's perfect? Absolutely not. Do I think it has room for improvement? Oh, yes. But do I think it's the evil monster that it's being painted as by certain groups of people, by certain authors, and those sorts of things? But most importantly, by the media. No. I don't think this country is the worst thing that has ever been on this planet. Looking at history, you would learn that there were far worse civilizations with far worse people doing far worse things than the United States. As I said, I don't think the country is perfect, but I do think the country, its foundation, its founding documents have the potential of making a very near perfect country. Are we there yet? Absolutely not. You know, I think it's kind of scary that people can go into absolute destitution if they get sick. That's disgusting. The healthcare system in the United States is in need of a lot of work. That's for sure. But there's been a lot of stuff going down lately that is just horrifying. It's frightening, it's unsettling, and it is the sorts of things that lead to the end of civilizations. The United States right now is being broken up from the inside. Its own people are attacking one another. And I'm going to be absolutely straightforward about this. I think the culprit in causing this is none other than the mainstream media. The mainstream media has lied about so many things and put a spin onto things that never should have been. An area where they have definitely lied is concerning these riots. I personally think every shop owner, every person who has lost a family member, and anyone whose livelihood has been wrecked by these riots should sue the mainstream media into oblivion. That's my feeling on it. Why do I think this? Because they have lied over and over and over again. There's a plethora of examples of how the media has lied or spun things in a way that has caused damage. And I mean damage to our culture. They have allowed groups that are opportunistic to gain notoriety, gain fame, and gain donors who in turn end up donating to the Democratic Party. I'm not going to name names. Do some research. You'll understand who I'm talking about. The media has stated absurdities about these riots, where there's fire and destruction. And the term that is used is mostly peaceful riots. You all know what the little boy bomb was? It's the bomb they dropped on Hiroshima. An atomic bomb. That bomb, for most of existence, was mostly peaceful. Until it went boom. Mostly peaceful is one of the stupidest things I think I've heard anybody say about these riots. About riots in general. riots are not mostly peaceful. And they're not protests either. The moment a protest turns into, let's start throwing bricks and breaking glass and destroying things and burning things, it's no longer a protest. It's a riot. And the fucking media needs to fucking understand that. The media has not done that demarcation. Instead, what they do is they spin a lie. Other examples of lies of the media. Fine People hoax. Look it up. The Covington kids. Now this one I'm going to concentrate on. The Fine People hoax, just bad, okay? But the Covington kids? This is awful! What happened with the Covington kids? They painted this kid as some smug, smiling little butthole being smug towards a Native American who was protesting. No, the story was completely different than what the media painted. Now, and this is where I'm going into a minefield. George Floyd. George Floyd was killed by cops. That is what was put out by the media. A horrific video was put out, taken by someone with a cell phone camera, and what you see is the cop kneeling on George Floyd's neck. And it looks like he's purposely killing him. And that's how the media painted it. And what was to follow were the most violent protests. Sorry, not protests, riots. First the protests, and I'm all for the protests. You know what? When I first saw that video of that cop kneeling on George Floyd's neck, what I wanted was for all those cops to be rounded up, put up against the wall, and shot. And not with paintball pellets. Then over time, what have we learned? The man died of fentanyl. And how did we learn this? Because somehow the body cam video got leaked out. And people have saw a thing in his mouth that looked like a fentanyl packet or something like that. He tried to swallow, so he wasn't caught with it. Another thing we saw in that body cam video was there were two other people in that car, both black. And those people were treated with respect. So the whole racism angle was sort of done away with. Because those two people, those two other people in George Floyd's truck, were treated respectfully. If it was a racism thing, those people would have been treated like shit too. George Floyd was saying he couldn't breathe before he was down on the ground. And not being able to breathe is a symptom of a drug overdose brought on by fentanyl. Now the latest shooting. A man got shot in the back 7 times. Jacob Blake. 7 times. When you hear that on the radio, which is exactly how I learned of it, I was like, 7 times? What did they shoot this guy in the back? Shoot a guy in the back 7 times? So what I'm imagining is this guy turned around and the cops just emptied 7 rounds into his back. Then I saw the video. Wow. The media tried to spin something in a direction it was never. The cops were in a tussle. They shot him with a taser. It didn't do anything. I think it was 2 tasers. The guy got up and started walking around to the driver's side of his car while being followed by cops with weapons drawn. And he reached into a car. Mate, I don't care what color your skin is. You do that in front of any cop. You reach into a car after being told not to, you're gonna get shot. And people weren't understanding this. People were like, oh, there's no reason for him to get shot like that. There was plenty of reason. Getting back to the media. Their spin, their lies, the way they twisted things has resulted in more riots. So far, my understanding is 30 people have died. 30 people have died in the last few months. How does this help Black lives? How does this help anybody? I mean, in the first protests, there were black businesses destroyed. How does that help? You're hurting your own people. And I'll be absolutely honest, I can't stand using that term. As far as I'm concerned, we're all Americans. We're all in this country. And right now, the media is just twisting things in a manner that is just destroying this country from the inside. I've heard of it. I've heard the term. It's called fifth column, I believe. And that's what the media is right now. Recently, the New York Times put out this piece called the 1619 Project, which historians are saying is a bunch of bull. And this project, this 1619 Project is being put out into schools. It's a New York Times article, and it's become curriculum in schools. And it totally, my understanding is it totally varnishes over the fact that it was African people that sold their own people into the slave trade. That's totally glossed over. It's just the evil white man that did the slavery. The 1619 Project doesn't even mention that it was the British and American colonies, or British and Americans, that said, no more, we're done, no more slavery, no more slave trade. And then later on, of course, slavery went away after a bloody civil war. We don't live in those times anymore. Are things hard for black people? Yeah, I'm sure they are. I don't know this personally, but I have been bullied. I have been beaten. I have had people use racist slurs towards me. I've had people use slurs dealing with my sexuality too. Because people are stupid. People are mean. And they're just getting meaner every day. I wish for all of this to end. And I wish the media would be taken into account. And I do wish every shop owner, every person who's lost a relative, and every person who's lost their livelihood would all get together with the most powerful lawyers there are in this country and sue the mainstream media into oblivion so that we can have an actual media like Walter Cronkite. If you don't know who he is, look him up. He was a guy who read the news. He didn't add his own commentary. He just read the news. Until around the Vietnam War. I think he started doing the commentary because the Vietnam War was a mess. And he was also very pro space program. Otherwise, he just read the news. Then he shut up and went home. But now we have people like Wolf Blitzer who attaches everything that's going wrong to Donald Trump. We have people like Don Lemon who spin shit like mostly peaceful protesters. CNN ran a fucking picture with this guy standing in front of a fire. And the chyron on the bottom said, mostly peaceful protest. What the fuck? That's not a mostly peaceful protest. But I've already gone over that. I just want all this to end. I want to be able to... I want the COVID to end. I want this COVID shit to end. I don't want to wear a mask anymore. And I'm sure a lot of people don't. That's really all I have to say. Hopefully I didn't run into any minds. If I did, explain nicely down below how. And what we can do. What needs to be done. I mean, I can tell you, I think Governor Wheeler should be held accountable for every death that happened since yesterday. He has been asked time and time again, would you like to have federal troops? And he has refused. The police are underfunded, and it's just mayhem there. Meanwhile, in Kenosha, the governor allowed federal troops in, and have been relatively quiet. No shootings, no nothing. Oh, one more thing. Last week was the Democratic National Convention. People who attended it went to and from the convention with no issues. On Wednesday night, people were leaving the Republican National Convention. And among these people that left the Republican National Convention was Rand Paul, Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky. And while he and his wife were walking back to their hotel, they were surrounded by Black Lives Matter protesters. But these weren't Black Lives Matter protesters. These were Black Lives Matter rioters. And they were pushing against the police. They were pushing into Rand Paul. They were attacking Rand Paul. And here's the irony. Rand Paul is in the process of writing a bill called the Breonna Taylor bill. After Breonna Taylor, who was shot in a police shooting during a no-knock raid. Rand Paul right now is in the process of writing a bill that will do away with no-knock raids. My understanding, Rand Paul is pushing also for the FBI to investigate the funding of these groups. And I think that's something that needs to happen as well. These aren't grassroots groups. They're too organized. Another person that was accosted, Brandon Straka. For those of you who don't know, look him up. He's the founder of the Walkaway Movement. And the Walkaway Movement, despite what the media has tried to paint them as, is a group that wants nothing to do with politics as usual. They are walking away from the Republicans and from the Democrats. They are not bots. They're not Russian bots or any of that shit. They're human beings of all political stripes that have had it with politics as usual. He was accosted. Again, Black Lives Matter protesters, rioters, came up to him and started slinging homophobic slurs at him. What is that? Why are you doing that? Why are you flinging homophobic slurs at somebody? Oh, is it because you're just homophobic fuckwits? I grew up in the 80s. I remember Jerry Falwell. I remember how he used to blame everything on people. It wasn't Jerry Falwell, but it was his ilk. How they blamed everything that was going bad on gays or on rock music. I remember when my principal at my elementary school decided to use the PA system to say that anyone who plays Dungeons and Dragons is going to hell. Anyone who listens to Ozzy Osbourne is going to go to hell. I grew up during the Satanic Panic. Right now, we're living a kind of a version of a Satanic Panic. It's just not called that. It's called woke. It's called being woke. Social justice is a good idea. But right now, it has been, once again, it has just been spun completely away from what it should be. In a way, it's become a way of being able to hate people that you disagree with. I'm about to run out of batteries, but I'm also running out of stuff to talk about. I'm sure I ran into a mine or two, but I'm tough. Let's just pray that things end, that this ridiculousness ends, that people open their eyes to look at who the real enemies are. And as far as I'm concerned, right now, the enemy is the media, the mainstream media. And I'll leave it at that. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.